Month after 350 millimeters of rain pummeled parts of KZN, leaving behind a trail of disaster, we talked to an environmental activist from South Durban Environmental Alliance. You'll know the name, I'm sure, Desmond D'SA, joining us, writing an opinion piece, Desmond, and I quote, "Rain bomb reparations long overdue." Here's the question, though: where are these bombs falling on in a time like this? Hello to you, Desmond.
Good evening, Gareth, and good evening to the listeners. Wow, these rain bombs flew all over the KZN. In particular, most of the areas where the majority of poor people have been living in inhumane conditions. And this is like the fourth time that they have experienced these rain bombs in Durban. And this has been a continuation, of what transpired in 2017, 2019, and once again. And as I talk to you now, just an area not far from the Ushaka airport, Tonga, they still do not have any water, and it might take them months to get any water.
Desmond, I want to continue our conversation and just talk about the president. And I see in your article here there seems to be a bit of hypocrisy involved with President Ramaphosa. But while I do that, can I ask you just a favor? It looks like you've leaned forward a little bit as you started talking. Maybe just sit back a bit for me, Desmond, I think, because we're cutting. There you are. Now I can see you nice and clearly. So some people are accusing the president of hypocrisy in this. On the one hand, basically acknowledging climate change is responsible for this, and just a few days later talking about gas expropriation. I suppose it's difficult to tell where the president sits on this, isn't it?
Well, it's clear that the president has a clear mandate, economic mandate to drill for oil and gas, and he doesn't see the whole fallacy of decisions that government will make. This is happening all over the world. This is happening in KZN on a number of occasions, and they do go and start drilling for oil and gas. It just means that the climate crisis will exacerbate and get worse for the people who live in those areas. We've tried to talk to the president. We've written to him. This open letter of the rain bomb is a clear undertaking, a clear indication that our government has lost, and doesn't understand it at all, and that at all expenses they will go and drill for oil and gas in the ocean, when the vast majority of people, those that love the ocean, throughout our coastline, have said no to the oil and gas, and have said that we should be demanding reparations from the north for all the pollution impacts that people have been affected with in South Africa.
How would we even begin to put that into an environmental framework, though, Desmond? I don't think many people will disagree with you. We have foreign countries coming in, using our resources, but we're picking up the environmental tab. We're picking up the environmental damage and the bill for that. But how do we even do that? Where do we even begin to create that framework?
Well, look, to the people of this country, there are processes, there are mechanisms in place that can be done, that can ensure that we hold these big countries, these big corporations accountable for all their actions. This is happening in other parts of the world. We cannot see why it cannot happen here. The Glasgow Agreement, in fact, what Cyril and our government has signed, is that sort of thing. It's supposed to shed a bit more light on how we can use that funds to move away from fossil fuel into a just transition. The monies that were allocated is available to move away from fossil fuel to a just transition. And I can't understand, for one, why would our government go down the other route when there is funds available, and we could, not only do we create jobs, but we could ensure that a just transition is done practically overnight in this country that will not harm the environment and not harm people. We have to start taking the plunge. We have to work together with the trade unions and everybody else so that we can start upskilling people. Communities are willing. The trade unions have given an indication that socially owned renewable energy, they are prepared to work together with everyone else. It's the government that is walking and talking a different language, which is confusing everybody else, because on the one hand, you hear them talking about keep mining on the land, destroying, keep ensuring that we have millions of tons of coal extracted from the ground. And we know coal is directly linked to climate change. But we also know that if you're going into the ocean and you're going to drill for oil and gas, not only will you exacerbate the climate change, but you'll also destroy our marine resources and millions of jobs that the tourism industry creates on our coastline.
Desmond, let me leave this as a last question to you. Desmond, let me just leave this as a last one for you. I take you back to 2017, 2018. Tell me if I've got this wrong. I remember it was the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They were praising Durban, weren't they? I think you referred to it in your article. Is Durban still being praised now? Should we still be praised? Should our country be praised by intergovernmental organizations like the UN? Have we failed?
Well, we failed drastically, Gareth. You know, there's no emergency plan, there's no resilience, there's no adaptation methodologies, and yet Durban's got all the money. We should have done that. We should have made sure that poor people do not get impacted upon. Instead, what has happened, the UN has failed drastically by praising and giving the city a pat on the back and giving them all the awards. When now we have seen, quite recently, we have seen that, in fact, Durban should never have received the award. They should have made sure that all the mechanisms that were required were put in place, and that has not happened. And it's just a tragedy that our government has failed in the city badly. And I certainly believe that it's going to take us years to recover in Durban because of the failure of the local government in dealing with the climate change catastrophe.
I really appreciate your time and always willing to be so keen to speak to us on eNCA. Desmond, thank you very much. Always taking time to speak to me. Desmond D'SA, environmental activist from South Durban Community Environmental Alliance. I was talking about an article on IOL. Just go look for rain bomb reparations are long overdue. That was just a short snippet of what Desmond is talking about. There's a lot more detail in his opinion piece. All right.